Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video, and it's time for another movie review. Today's movie review is going to be of Joker. So Joker is about Arthur Fleck. He's not disabled, but he's got a mental illness, and all one bad day just made him snap into just this deranged man that we all know as the Joker, or so we think, at least. And I'll get into that into a second. But before I get into anything, I just want to say, if you have not seen Joker, I will say there's going to be like spoilers here and there. So I suggest pausing this video, go check out the movie, and then come back here. And then so that way we can just talk about it and all those other things. There's not that many spoilers, but there are some things that I will cover that you'll be like, what? So, yeah. But this is directed by Todd Phillips. And usually, Todd Phillips has done some comedies, and the ones that people know from are from the Hangover series. And there's this one other movie he did, and yeah, the Hangover movies did progressively bad over time, number one. And then two, his other comedies are not really the best hits because they're very forgettable. So the fact that this guy basically took it out of his own hands and said, let's do a Joker movie. And here we are, honestly. And at first, when I heard this idea, people were like, oh, a Joker origin movie. I don't know about that concept, because the thing that people love with the Joker is that he is the type of character you want to know the information about what made this man so crazy, what made him snap, what made him the psycho that he is, why this, why that, why do the things that he does. But at the same time, it's best to keep it like very like shrouded, like a mystery. Keep it very vague. As the Joker once even said, it's best to keep it multiple choice. The idea of his origin story being multiple choice, where there's a different story each time, um, going back to his origin, you don't know what's really reality and what's fiction. What stories is the Joker making up? Is all these stories that Joker making up? Is it all in his head? Is this all like just basically in his own psychic psychological reality? Or is this or all the stuff that Joker says actually happened? Like you take I'm not gonna make this a whole big comparison about the different Jokers, because there's been so many Jokers that are just so good. And then there's Jared Leto right here. Worth it, honestly. Honestly worth it. Because yeah, I used to kind of like Leto's Joker. I used to give him credit, but now it's kind of like it's a hit or miss thing for me, because he's going for All-Star Joker, which does the tattoos and the grill and that sort of gangster look, that thug look, but it's not the best Joker look. But so yeah, that's worth it just to flick him off. But I'm not gonna make this a whole big thing about like all the different Jokers that have come before Joaquin Phoenix, because obviously you got the iconic Jack Nicholson, you've got the very amazing late Heath Ledger, we've got the infamous Mark Hamill, you've got the OG Cesar Romero, you've got other underrated like actors and voice actors like Troy Baker, you got Kevin Michael Richardson, you've got Jeff Bennett, you've got all these Joker actors and voice actors, Zach Galifianakis. So a lot of names, and I'm not going to make this a whole big comparison, but real quick, let's just get into sort of like a good example of how does Joaquin's pertain to this, or how does this example or analogy pertain to Joaquin's, is that take Heath Ledger for a moment. Whenever he always said his story about how he got his scars, it was always something different. He always said something different. One story he said involved his mom getting beat to death by his father. One involved this thug basically um, like beating him up. One involved his father beating up him. And they all, but the thing was that stayed the same and remained the same was a knife being stuck to someone's mouth, to the blade, and saying, "Why so serious?" But the point is that, so this this movie kind of does the same sort of multiple choice idea, and it's kind of a good example of the Joker's origin, that it should be kept multiple choice of, okay, here's option A of what happened here, but then there's this that happened, then there's that happened. So in a way, in the Joker's mind, you could have the multiple interpretations that have existed could be his different origins. Let's say for like in terms of just the Joker in general. So let's say for example, Joker says his origin was he fell into ace chemicals and that sort of drove him mad and dyed his like skin and bleached his hair and just dyed him and made him sort of like sick in the head. That could be said about, hey, that's Jack Nicholson's story. Or we could say, or he can wind up saying next, like an hour later or a moment later, he could say that I was some criminal stuck a blade up to my mouth and carved a smile on my face, talking about Heath Ledger. We can have all these different ideas and like origins that the Joker could talk about, and they're all basically multiple choice, bringing them sort of in the idea of which is kind of like all the story and which is the real sort of open origin. And like I said, what I'm trying to say is this is all an open origin. So for the most part, we know that it's just this Arthur Fleck guy, and it's just kind of one bad day just makes this dude snap, and what made him tick, and to the point where he's the Joker, the infamous Joker. And the fact that Todd Phillips did this, I'm pardon my French, was kind of a bit ballsy for someone who's done some really bad, very like low, like really bad, like really like garbage fest comedies, and only has done one success of comedy, which was probably the first Hangover. And even the first Hangover was just okay. So the fact that this guy did this sort of like art piece, sort of like thing with the Joker is amazing, astounding, really, because this buildup over time, at first, like I was trying to get back to, was at first the idea of having Joker origin is the idea of, is kind of the whole idea of it's a character you want to know about, but at the same time you want to keep it's very shrouded of his full origin. Kind of like with characters like you got Pennywise or you got Freddy Krueger. Like those are characters that they have great like open origins of where they come from and who they are, but they're never fully explained. You want that to be exploited, but at the same time you want to keep that contained, so that way if you exploit something too much, then it kind of ruins what made this character so cool or so complex. And Joker is such an iconic character and such a complex one that even to this day, we don't even know what his actual origin is. That there was even, at one point, there was not even one Joker that existed. There was 3 Jokers that existed in the comics. I think at one point in DC Rebirth, there were 3 different Jokers. So you didn't even know which Joker was the real Joker that existed this whole time, basically stabbing Batman and being the thorn in his side. And that's kind of what Joker's known to be, the thorn in his side, that no matter what happens to Joker, what happens to Batman, they're always going to be back and forth at each other, like ping pong here. They're the big, like sort of symbol of evil needing that big symbol of good, and vice versa. The completion of what kind of sums up both what Hamill's Joker has said before and what Heath Ledger's Joker has said before about how their Jokers and their Batmen complete one another. How without Batman, there's no Joker. Without Joker, there's no Batman. Same thing with 89. The whole thing with Keaton and Nicholson. You made me. I made you. I made you, you made me first. So that completion, coming back around to it, is still a good dynamic, and what makes Batman and Joker so great arch nemesis. So when Todd Phillips was saying that, okay, we're gonna have Joaquin Phoenix, so think of, okay, the guy from Gladiator, the villain, okay, sure, but then you had movies like Her, and was it Brokeback Mountain? No, it wasn't Brokeback Mountain. It was Her. It was Johnny Cash, I think, and it was on no Walk the Line and Inherit Vice, that kind of people are like, oh, this dude's gonna be Joker? Okay. So both Phillips and Phoenix came out of their way to say that we want to make this very like almost like a different type of comic book like movie. Even though it does take a lot of elements and ideas and styles of different movies and different comic book movies. So very heavily inspired, but we'll get to that in a moment. So although it's very heavily inspired, the fact that it's this very different comic book movie, and it's very like got this like almost like art house vibes to it, and they pull it off so well. It's very unbelievable, like how amazing this movie became. Phoenix really is a he's going to be a very iconic Joker to come, of the many Jokers that we have and what's to come. And without a shadow of a doubt, he is better than Jared Leto. It's hard to say he's better than anybody else that has come before him, because this is a different interpretation. And just like everyone else before him, they've all been different interpretations and different styles of the Joker. Like you think of Jack Nicholson, he's kind of like got like this gang. He's like kind of like the gangster. Heath Ledger was the anarchist. Cesar Romero was the clown. And you got Joaquin Phoenix, who's going for the comedian. So they all have their different interpretations and styles of the character, that although they're very different and their own sort of version, at the same time they feel accurate, which is mind-blowing, because the most accurate interpretation of the comics in terms of the Joker has always been Mark Hamill, and he always will be, because he's one of the best there is. But you even look at the three live-action actors I just said, Cesar Romero being from the 60s, Jack Nicholson being from the 80s into the 90s, and in Heath Ledger being the early 2000s, the fact that they were their own interpretations, but at the same time they felt very comic book accurate. Phoenix adds his own interpretation, but keeping that same thing of that this feels like the Joker. This feels like a comic book almost accuracy, but keeping it to his own style. The fact that when we got these trailers and these first looks at Joaquin Phoenix, just kept getting better and better, and just made it a more fantastic of a like anticipation. And now it's become this one of the probably best movies of this year, and it's really grossed a lot in terms of box office. It almost beat, I think it's almost either it's beat Endgame or it's close at where Endgame is right now, and that is insane, because the highest grossing movie used to be Avatar, and now Endgame kind of pushed the expectations of that, and Joker is pushing that expectations a little bit above Avatar and above possibly Endgame. But yeah, but getting back to the movie itself in Phoenix, because I like this sort of like almost like deranged psyche, like into the mind of this guy, this Arthur Fleck, and how you're thinking that he's just sick in his head, that maybe he does have like this mental illness that he had in his head for like when he was first born. But then it also brings in like the multiple choice idea of like, was he beat as a kid, hence why he's got this mental illness? Was it something, a disorder he had in his mind? Is it a placebo where he thinks he's crazy but he's not sick? So it leaves open up this ideas and all these ideas. So even the stuff that kind of goes on in this movie, you think, was this all in his head? Was this all in Arthur Fleck's reality? Or was it all actually happening? Like he meets his neighbor played by Zazie Beetz, which you guys might know from I think that one show with her and Donald Glover, and she was also Domino in Deadpool 2. She shows up and at first is kind of like just the next door neighbor, apartment neighbor with a little girl, and then like a moment later, her and Fleck are hanging out like on a date, and and he imagines him having an affair with her, and like basically kind of being committed to being in this relationship sort of thing and feeling happy about himself when in reality he's just this sort of man that's like kind of thinking this world is really just getting darker and darker and darker, and sometimes you just need to smile. So it's crazy. All right, just a second. um So that could be all in his head. The sort of crimes he commits could all be in his head. So when he killed the three, what was it, candidates or the main like Enterprise members of Wayne Enterprise, was that in his head, or did that actually happen? Did he kill them? Was this another clown gangbanger, or was this actually the Joker? Was that um the person, that clown that killed the Waynes, Thomas and Martha Wayne in Crime Alley, was that just a random sicko that was inspired by Phoenix's Joker's like influences and actions to cause basically a riot and to murder the Waynes and leaving Bruce there unattended and with obviously his origin? Or was that Phoenix? Which is sort of like the story here. So it's just so well crafted. The sort of setting, the style is it's fits pretty well. It's not too grim and grimy and all like dull on color, but yet when you see color, it brightens, like it pops a little bit. So like when you see Arthur Fleck at first, he's just like this very just your average Joe that you just kind of feel, not you feel bad for, but this average guy. If you just look at Arthur Fleck, this average Joe, and how he's just wearing like regular color like clothing, like kind of like dull, like faded out colored shirt and a sweatshirt, dirty jeans and whatever else. He looks like he's just kind of like got a rough life. He doesn't have his act together. But then when he reaches his transformation to the Joker, it's fantastic because he goes from this basically this bum that's been beat around and kind of everyone's kind of gotten to him because he's had so many bad things happen to him, whether it be his personal life or his social life, just basically bashed him in the head, that when he comes out in that Joker suit with the colored, like the new color, with the red, with the green, with the makeup on him, with the blues, it pops. He feels like he's got, like, he owns the show. He's got like grace to him. He's got like sort of like an like complexion of elegance almost in a way to him. How he moves, how he dances a little bit. Okay, say what you will about that stare dance, but when he's dancing sort of in the bathroom, like doing like this almost like premeditation sort of thing, you see this sort of like complexity of both power, maybe control, and simplicity, maybe. I don't know. It's left for, obviously this is a story and an origin that's left for many interpretations of how this all kind of went. Was this all in Fleck's head, or was this actually, did all of this happen? You got De Niro that's in this movie, and he's great. Honestly, I don't see a lot of De Niro in a while, so it's good to kind of see him do this sort of like small little role here. I was kind of, when he was on the talk show, when Joker's on the talk show, I was expecting Murray to get like, because De Niro's character's named Murray, I was expecting Murray to get basically offed how that sort of scene that happens in The Dark Knight Returns, where the Joker takes he goes on a talk show, the same concept, and he takes a mug and basically throws it on the desk So he breaks the mug and slits the guy's throat using just the like basically the handle, and then he's just bleeding out blood. I was thinking it was gonna be something like that because when I saw a trailer and him going to the talk show, I was like, is this supposed to be like a reference to the Dark Knight Returns? Like, I know this isn't like Frank Miller. This has nothing to do with that. But are they gonna kind of like do like a sort of similar situation like that? But the way Joker kind of does that scene with Murray at the talk show is very different and well and definitely a lot better played in a way because it comes off like, okay, this is just an act. This is just me being a comedian, I want to tell a joke. You know what the joke is? Pulls the trigger. So yeah, starting sort of like an almost like an anarchist, starting a riot. And whether he started these sort of riots throughout Gotham City, but the fact that he is being seen as a symbol of inspiration is perfect in his eyes. So having all these riots and seeing all these clowns, like these people dressed up in clowns, and seeing the one guy, whether it was actually Phoenix or it was just this random clown dude kill the Waynes, you kind of think this was all because of Phoenix's inspiration and his actions as the Joker. I guess so with all this like riot talking, let's get into sort of like a controversy that this movie has had, which is people, I guess there's like an anti-violence, anti like something. There's a controversy about the fact that it's basically promoting basically violence and all these murders and all these other crazy stuff. And honestly, I don't see the point in making that sort of like complaint because Heath Ledger's Joker kind of did the same sort of thing, this anarchist that believed in violence and sort of the anarchy, and all basically everybody freaks out over one little measly thing because it's not a part of the plan. And this was not a part of the plan because if someone were to get shot and they knew they were going to get shot, well, it's all part of the plan. But if someone else on the random street gets banged and gets stabbed, everybody loses their brains and it just starts going all like, oh my gosh. So kind of it's best to kind of look at it like that, because why are we complaining about violence in this movie when no one complained about it in The Dark Knight? No one complained about it in something like Sicario. Sicario is kind of promoting basically mercenaries that kill like the government and kill like Mexican cartel and terrorists and promoting terrorism. So where's that? So I don't see the point in it. It's kind of, I understand people's opinions. That's your opinion, but just in my opinion, there's no need to. Why talk about this in 2019 when this could have been talked about other times, and it just doesn't need to be talked about in movies because it's just not the general point it's trying to make. The general point it's trying to make is this, it's trying to tell this very different type of story. This is definitely different. But at the same time, it does borrow from different movies. Some people can argue that this movie borrows from a lot of the Batman movies, whether it be the Dark Knight trilogy or the Burton movies, or even anything with Frank Miller. Maybe some people might say it borrows from The Dark Knight Returns. Some people might say it borrows from The Killing Joke. Some people might say it borrows from anything Batman related. And obviously, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was being compared to a lot of times to Heath Ledger. And sure, that's a big expectation to live up to. So, especially since Leto just is not reaching that expectation. So Phoenix has that sort of thing. And people are saying that he looks very, and the sort of the style, the way it's gritty, the way it's like sort of the sort of like dark psychological sort of thing feels like something like almost close to Heath Ledger with the mask, the makeup, the clown look and everything and all. It felt like Ledger. So, and not even compared to Batman movies. This movie borrows a lot of other things from other movies. Like if you look at Taxi Driver, that's a big one that it borrows from. It borrows from like elements of King of Comedy. It borrows elements from American Psycho. It borrows from I was gonna say Donnie Darko. No, that'd be a totally different movie if it borrowed from Donnie Darko. It borrows from Nightcrawler. It borrows from a lot of very psychological, not thrillers, but a lot of psychological thrillers where you have this character who's not a protagonist, but he's in a way the antagonist, and it's basically this serial killer that he believes his actions will make him a hero in a way, or what he is doing is right. And I'm not saying that's relatable, especially what the Joker does in this movie, but in his eyes, he's trying to be the hero. And Joker is nowhere near a hero, but he thinks that basically standing up to the system, standing up to the man, and basically how he was once this sort of like poor guy, the poor, and representing the poor. And you have Wayne Enterprise and Thomas Wayne representing sort of the power, the control, the rich. So when you see the downgrade of the people being murdered by Wayne Enterprise, they become the poor. And then you see Arthur Fleck as the Joker, and he kind of feels the rich and the power and the control. So that sort of flip-flop in a way. If you get what I'm saying. And another little note is, at first, there's some things that this movie throws at me that I sat there, I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, where is this going? I was like, why is it doing this? But then it pulls me back in. Just when I thought I was gonna basically leave and be pushed out, they pull me back in because at one point there's a subplot. I thought this was going to be a subplot. Well, it's sort of a subplot where Arthur's mother says that she supposedly was married to Thomas Wayne, bringing the idea that Arthur Fleck, the Joker, being Thomas Wayne's son, while having Bruce Wayne. So was this could this create an alternate reality? Sure, but whether it's an alternate reality or not, at first I was like, really? I was like, making the Joker kind of related to Bruce Wayne kind of would be weird. But then it kind of in the sort of symbolic way, it's kind of interesting because Thomas Wayne is sort of like that Lady Liberty sort of person that the statue that Metallica has, where it's kind of like the equinox or the whatever you want to call it, where it's got two different balances and two different sort of like sides, where in symbolic way, Thomas Wayne kind of created somebody good, but also in a way brought up somebody bad, bringing up the two yin and yangs, creating this parallel of why these two are sort of needed to cross paths and be sort of like in this stuck like death to death, fist on fist battle between the ages of we are destined to do this forever situation. But so like I said, I was thinking to myself, I didn't like this, but in terms of the simplicity, it kind of works. So my point I'm trying to make is there's some things that I didn't like at first, but it pulled me in. I was like, you know what? Okay, I will go with this idea. Number one. Number two, plus the fact that they clarified that, yeah, he's not my son. You're not my son at all, Arthur. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about, you crazy mental psycho mind, whatever. So there's that. But overall, this really there were some things that this movie really took me by surprise. And I'm still thinking about even as I'm sitting here talking to you guys. And even before I did this review, and even after I'm going to be done with this review, I'm still going to try and process all this stuff and try and not leave things up in my head to how I want to interpret it, because this is very open interpretation in a way. I'm bringing this back again as an example, is at the end when Joker's sitting there kind of like beat up to death, and I'm like, okay, there's no way they're going to murder him. Because I was told that there was a rumor that we'd see more of the Wayne family. And I didn't expect to see the Wayne family as much as I did in this movie. But it's not like it's like you see him every single scene and it sets up this like oh, we see Bruce Wayne become Batman. It's not like it's not like we see that. It's more along the lines of, okay, I thought there'd be a scene or two and that'd be it, or maybe a mention of the name. But instead we see Thomas Wayne like and Arthur Fleck interact with each other. We the little kid in the trailer that Arthur like brings up his smile, that's Bruce apparently. So making that even more creepier, the fact that he shows up with a clown nose, basically putting on a smile on his face, almost like something close to John Wayne Gacy would do. Something like very like it's friendly, but kind of making this creepy. So the fact that this movie made that even creepier is kind of it's a bit chilling actually, especially if you know about what happened with John Wayne Gacy. So yeah, but that's supposed to be Bruce Wayne. And I didn't know that. I sat there and I was like, are we going to have the wings? And I was like, is this supposed to be Bruce now? And I was like, okay. I was like, I hope they don't take this too far. And it doesn't go too far where you're like, oh, like now it's now turning into a Batman origin. It's not a Batman origin. It stays as way as possible from like everything else because it wants to be its own thing because this is not going to tie into the DC extended universe whatsoever. So it's not going to have. So don't expect, if you're going to see this movie, don't expect like a post credit scene or end credit scene or anything like that. Just go into this movie with an open mind, and people are going to love it, and you're going to enjoy this. I definitely liked most of it, but the moment when he's sitting up there and he's basically carving the blood on his face into a smile, almost looking like, some people have said it looks like a bat symbol, but it's obviously meant to be a smile. There's a random clown guy with a mask shoots down the Waynes, shooting down Martha and Thomas Wayne. So when Arthur's telling this story, was that all in his head? Was the random clown just a random clown criminal crook guy that was inspired by the anarchy of this Joker that what he did by murdering Murray Frank, I think his name is, shooting him in the eye, murdering more on live television, giving the idea that this world has basically just been utter like trash to me and to all of society, and you guys think that everything's gonna be fine and dandy, but everything has not been good because you guys need to basically open your eyes, sort of like big speech, giving people like more protesting and anarchy. So was that just a random crook that was inspired by Joker, or was that all in his head, and that maybe what actually happened was Joker murdered the Waynes? And maybe that was even in his head too, in another reality of his mind. Maybe also calling back to the fact that Jack Napier killed the Waynes. So maybe calling back to the 89 Batman movie. So there's a lot of things that this movie kind of really brings. And I might have to watch this movie again, but I am certain this is definitely going to be one of my favorite movies of this year. And I don't know what to give this, honestly. I might have to go back to watch this. So I'm going to go back and rewatch this. And then probably give me a couple more days, maybe almost a week. I'm going to have like, you guys are going to know what my grade of this movie is going to be. So what are your thoughts on Joker? What is your interpretation of Joker? How do you feel about this movie? Let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, if not every week. Make sure to check out my previous videos and go everything that's archived, all that fun stuff. There's going to be two Christmas videos, maybe one Christmas video up tomorrow. I'm going to have maybe a review. Maybe I'll do something else. We'll see. I'm going to have something planned for the New Year's. I'm going to have my best movies of 2019. I'm going to have my worst movies of 2019 sometime this week. Definitely either before Christmas or after Christmas. Most likely expect that. And look out for all sorts of new things coming back in terms of top 10s are coming back, movie reviews that are coming back. I'm gonna bring back gaming. I'm gonna bring back awesome news, aka movie news. Um, I'm going to I'm gonna mention this in the new like in my most anticipated movies of 2020, but I'm gonna say this here and now as well. Is that look out for a new segment or videos I want to do called with comic reviews. I've wanted to talk about comics for a while. I keep forgetting to do them. I'm in the process of reading comics, and the problem is I keep forgetting to review them. And there's a bunch I've not talked about. There's a bunch I've read before, and I have not gotten the opportunity to sort of, I guess, review. So, all behind here, behind those guys. And yes, I'm gonna leave Jared Leto like that, just because for the fun of it. So, no questions asked, just cause. But if you guys want to see comic reviews, let me know. What are some novels you guys want me to review? I've got tons, and I'll maybe give you guys a list of ideas of what what I can maybe purchase one day, and see if I can see what I can accomplish, see what I can do. I'm hoping sometime the end of this week, maybe into the new year, I could finally fix my Adobe. So real quick issue I've had in my Adobe Premiere is that I've already, I guess, when I first downloaded it on my phone, it gave me like 3 free trials or 4 free trials. So now I have to pay for it. And I don't have like a debit card or anything like digital or anything like physical to kind of like basically put in a code and say, hey, this is my code number for this card and stuff like that. So that's been fun because that's why I've kind of resort my videos back to this sort of quality. But once I get my Adobe fixed, you guys will know that it'll be fixed. It'll be better. Everything's going to be improved. You'll see the edits. You'll see the sort of like obviously adding of the imagery, the GIFs, and all these little like notes and little stuff like that popping up on your screen here and there. So once I get that fixed, you guys are gonna see the return of those like better quality videos. For now, these are just gonna be rough videos for the time being. So once I get that fixed, look out for a review of the first episode of The Mandalorian. I know it's been like weeks since the first episode of The Mandalorian came out, but I recorded that video when the first episode came out. So this was like weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I was sick at the time, so bear in mind on that because I was sick or had allergies. That's all I remember. And so look out for that. I also have a top 10 video in there that I'm still in the process of making, and then that's also gonna be uploaded as well. So all sorts of new things, and all sorts of things, new and more and old, are gonna come back and come to this channel. Vlogs, everything's just gonna explode on this channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed so far of 2019. I know it's not the end of the year, but look forward to the end of this year and into the new year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.